we'll see how long this House settlement remains in place, but as things stand today, it is the landscape that that is out there. Is it good for Tennessee? In recent weeks, and with varying lengths of hair, I sat down with David Ubben and Ryan Callahan to discuss that very question, talking about Tennessee's football, specifically football recruiting, and how it might work in this new current landscape. Here's their take.
Tennessee is kind of back in this place now where they don't really have an edge necessarily. It's a money business. Tennessee jumped in the pool very, very early. Was very aggressive. That's paid off for them. But now you're in the rev share era. There's a lot of money. A lot of people are pooling some of that money from donors into the rev share pot. So what you can do on top of that, as we sort of figure out, as we maybe sniff back in the Bagman era a little bit, figure out what it takes to go over that rev share. Tennessee, there's not really an advantage for them again. They're sort of back on equal footing, and they have to figure that out. And so I don't think you can have those kind of draft numbers without the recruiting numbers. I mean, LSU, you throw a rock, you hit a 5-star defensive tackle. Texas is Texas. Alabama and Georgia, Alabama still got the Saban effect and all those things. So I don't think one can come without the other. But the road to that, I don't know that I see it for Tennessee because you've got to find an advantage. And they had one for like 3 years, but everybody's kind of caught up now, and the rules have caught up as well.
Personally, I don't see how this current setup with the House settlement is very good for Tennessee because I see schools like Georgia and Alabama are benefiting from this because they were not known as big NIL schools. You notice Alabama's been fighting for this stuff as much as anybody. They're eager to see guardrails in place. I think they're liking the fact that this might be, in their minds, a more level playing field for them.
Which is fascinating considering that program, that they don't have the deep NIL pockets.
Yeah, I mean, good, but not an advantage over anybody else. So that in a lot of cases they weren't known as the highest bidder. And part of the problem too, when you have a lot of talent on your roster, Georgia runs into this. When you've got established players on your roster that were 5-stars coming out of high school, you can't pay high school signees coming in as much as those guys. You've got to kind of work that out. And so they've got so much talent on the roster, there's just not enough to go around. And so you've got to pick your spots where you're going to invest. So it's a better situation for a Georgia or an Alabama when you've got the same amount of money for everyone. They don't have to worry about an Ohio State or someone like that outspending them.
You can see both of those discussions in their entirety at the Sports Source Digital Network, our free YouTube channel. Jimmy, do you agree with those guys that Tennessee had a bit more of an edge? NIL allowed them to catch up. We're seeing that some schools are disbanding their collectives already. So there's this belief that, oh no, you'll still have NIL. Well, there's still a lot of presidents and athletic directors out there saying, nope, you're not. It's the money's going here. Okay, well, the landscape has changed. If that's the case, do you think Tennessee has lost a little bit of its edge that helped it catch up? I mean, they were in the absolute trash bin when Jeremy Pruitt left and you're 40 men out. Then they caught up pretty quickly. Have they lost their edge, in your opinion, or no?
Well, I have a dissenting view because I don't think they really had much of an edge. Where was it? Who did they get with NIL money other than Nico? All right, who else was it?
Well, David Sanders. David Sanders,
okay.
but you had to overpay.
Well, he hadn't done anything yet.
Well, that's true. And you really had to overpay what Ohio State was offering.
So the first year that Heupel turns the corner and wins 12 games, that wasn't NIL money that contributed to that. It was Hendon Hooker and it was other players like Hyatt that blossomed, right? I don't think they had that much of an advantage. I think that's overrated. So that's my opinion on it. I can't sit there and tell you players in the last few years that they went out and got from another school or signed that had a huge impact that I know was because of NIL, other than Nico. And I thought Nico was overrated.
I guess you could make the argument if you hadn't had the NIL, you wouldn't have gotten those. You can say that that's not why they came, but if you were offering $0 and somebody else was offering $200,000, you're not getting them.
Right, so, but who are they?
Brew McCoy, jumped in, was a NIL, I suppose.
I don't know.
Or would he have?
Yeah, he was a transfer
before that,
wasn't
he?
Yeah,
he was before that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of but some of these transfers you got, Dante Thornton, you brought in. There was some NIL involved.
Yeah,
all of
Mike
those
Matthews
deals.
came in as a highly touted guy that was at a pretty high price. I don't know compared to other schools.
But what did he do? He caught 7 passes.
Right. Well, I'm with Jimmy on the point of that. I don't think it's created this huge edge. I think they've caught up because they had NIL where it needed to be.
Yeah.
They brought in a good staff that knew what it was doing from a development standpoint, evaluation, like a guy like Dylan Sampson. But to the question of if there was an edge, have they lost it? Yeah, probably so. I think it's going to come back to, do you have the right staff that can recruit? I think relationships are going to matter more than we've probably talked about in the last couple of years. And then do you have the right kind of plan in place to be able to get that talent to choose you over the big boys in the SEC recruiting?
And just to be clear, I'm talking, the reason I throw out Brew McCord, Dante Thornton, it's not just recruiting. I mean, that's recruiting
it's
as
a
well.
factor in the transfer
Yeah,
portal.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you agree with these guys or you agree with those guys?
A little bit of both. The one thing I think that it takes away from, though, is I think the mantra or this new signature of everything school's getting ready to hit the blender. Because I don't know if you can be in everything school anymore. I don't know if you can distribute what to and equate it to what for baseball 2 years removed from a national or a year removed from a national championship. Caldwell, who is bringing in one of the top recruiting staffs in one of the recruiting rosters in all of women's college basketball. This is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, but if Tennessee does not start going a little bit more like 85, 90% towards football with this breakdown of how they're going to try to distribute funds, Tennessee is going to slowly start falling behind again some of these big boys, these heavyweights. We can make jokes or comments about us re-entering the Bagman era now, back-to-back segments, but I don't know how much of this Tennessee did gain, but I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to, even to a Rick Barnes program, into a Tony Vitello program. This market is fueled on football. If you don't start juicing it all towards football, you're quickly going to see yourself 14, 18, 20th in the preseason rankings and not climbing much.
I do think, I will say this though, I do think that the Bagman thing is overblown in terms of there's this thought that before NIL, every player in the country was getting a Mercedes and $300,000 under the table. And it's like, I know too many former Vols who didn't make a dime and they're mad about it. I didn't get, all I got was a $50 handshake. I think that you're right, that the Bagman, the reason everybody's saying it is for the biggest players, yeah, that is coming. But in terms of feeding an entire roster the way we are now through NIL, this guy gets a little, this guy gets a little, I don't think you're going to have enough bagmen to cover all that, especially if they're giving money to the school, which then comes back in revenue sharing. It's like, wait a second, so now I'm contributing here for the revenue share and, I'm contributing a double, you're wanting a double dose? So I think that's
I might be off base on this, but I kind of look at what college football is going to be moving forward, much like to Major League Baseball. Now, those heavy hitters like the LAs, the New Yorks, and the Chicagos of the world, they're not always in the Fall Classic. They're not even part of the tournament when they get to the postseason. But they got the highest chances to get there from the word go based on what they're putting in to their salary caps at the beginning of the season. Roofs, ceilings, you decide where you want to be.
Agreed. All right. When we come back, and by the way, in terms of recruiting right now, and the system's in flux at the moment, Tennessee they went from 35th to 54th in the 24/7 rankings. Now they went to 12th, and now they're back down to 15. But they are in their usual 10 to 15 range where they typically are.